Alright, we are on part 2 of the pre-production package for level design. We're going to go over the rough walkthrough today, or just the walkthrough in general. I'll do a part 2 to show you the more polished version of the walkthrough. I want to try and keep this one shorter. I am going to start where we left off by looking at our notes from the timeline. So watch video number 1, how I created a timeline, did some brainstorming. So as we all know, we're working on level, a game based on the 80s movie C.H.U.D. These are some of the brainstorm scribbles I came up with in my initial timeline. How am I level to work, what major elements, what major story bit pieces I want to have in here. And so you can just see the scribbles. I'm not going to go over the scribbles. Watch video number 1. So we're starting with this, and now we're trying to flesh out more of the timeline. So if we look at my finished timeline, this is what I ended up with. Clearly showing that my level is going to start with an IGC, it's going to end with an IGC, and when the gameplay starts here, gameplay ends here, and in between we have multiple gameplay changes. We have an in-game event, which is a building collapse. We have another IGC where we meet a family. Now this is not my final level. I'm going to go through multiple versions of my walkthrough and try and iterate on it, add more detail. When I start drawing my map, it's also going to make me come up with new ideas. When I draw maps, I try and envision myself playing the game, whether it's 2D side-scrolling sprite game or a top-down RTS or a third-person action-adventure like Uncharted or something. Try and walk through it and picture my character, my actions in the game, and it comes up with much more detailed ideas, which I need to then update my timeline and put in my walkthrough. So the walkthrough needs to have all the detail that you may think of here in the timeline. So I'm writing out my timeline, and you want to include some crazy amount of detail here. Well, that crazy amount of detail goes in the walkthrough, and this is the walkthrough. I have a template that's included in the pickup folder. Please, or wherever I've told you to go to get the template, please grab it and use it. So if you look at all the components of the walkthrough, the game name, so name your game, name your level, include a story background. So the more detail in here, the better. This is where you get to go crazy and come up with all kinds of great character summaries, all kinds of details that will probably never make it into your level mission, but it's great to have more context to work with. The location setting, this is where your level is set. What time of day is it? What time of year? What future? What past civilization is it set in? Try and give us details of what this place looks like. The mission objective, very straightforward. I'm going to actually switch to my C.H.U.D so I can make this shorter. My C.H.U.D walkthrough is using the same template, which I highly recommend you do. Formatting takes time. Formatting is a skill. It is not an easy thing to make something look good, so please copy this. So my game name is C.H.U.D. My level file name is Loading Dock Alley. So I have a nice description of my little story here. People, pets have been disappearing throughout Filth City. This is what I named my fictional city. Kind of 1970s, early 80s New York type city. Unknown to the inhabitants of Filth City, the government has been dumping toxic waste into the sewers. Exposure to this toxic waste has turned the unfortunate inhabitants of the sewers into C.H.U.Ds. We then state what has been stated in the trailer. Watch my trailer on my YouTube channel. C.H.U.Ds eat anything that they encounter, including human flesh. So my location setting, inspired by 1970s New York City, we call this Filth City. Filth City is smelly, dark, and empty, but for the sounds of C.H.U.D and the silence of fear. So I can include more details in there if I want, but it's a good start. Remember, this is the rough. Get your basic ideas down and continue to work on it for at least another couple weeks. As you work on your map, then start building out a block out. You want to add more and more here. So obviously this the mission objective Escape the city streets and sewers. Escape awaits on a distant rooftop. So it is escape to the rooftop is basically the whole point of the level. So make it straight to the point, people get it, don't lead some crazy, you can collect all these different things and you can fight this, but and then you don't bother to state that really the whole point of the level is just to walk out the exit door, which is basically what my level is. Get to the top of the roof and open the door. Gameplay mechanics, use navigation and platform mechanics to escape. So I don't really have combat in here. I thought about using environmental traps or something to kill off some CH.U.Ds, but I'm just going to navigate and use platform mechanics. Special mechanic, I thought about kicking CH.U.Ds in the face as you jump across boxes. This could be some contextual button press thing. I don't know if I'll get it in there, but it's a thought. My player characters are Harry Dean Stanton, fictionally named, but of course based on the actor. And enemies, this is very important. N-A, none. Actually, enemies. CH.U.Ds, what am I doing? CH.U.Ds, why is everything in bold? My caps lock is on. CH.U.Ds. So I forgot to put CH.U.Ds in there. Take off the bold. Non-playable characters, my little stranded family in the apartment. My victory condition, escape the streets onto the rooftop and into the stairwell. Failure condition, the only way you can fail is you die. There's no timer. There's no other alternate ways. You basically just die and don't get to the rooftop. And at this point, this is very, very important. So a lot of people seem to miss this. Mission walkthrough. This needs to be a sequence of events just like the timeline. So, number 1, IGC shows the players at the start point and his path through the level. Number 2, gameplay starts in the alley. Number 3, navigating platform into the building. Number 4, IGC meet the stranded family. You can number these to match your walkthrough, or you can leave them in sequence, which is easy to read. This obviously happens in sequence. You cannot hit this IGC without doing this gameplay first, so it's very straightforward. So again, this is echoing what's already on my timeline. And I started adding more details, like in my start in the gameplay. I added a little bullet point here, and it's kind of sets up what this alley looks like, what my player is going to experience. The alley is enclosed by trash, debris, and an old broken fence. CH.U.Ds wander about on the other side of the fence. Player has only one path up to the roof stairwell of an adjacent apartment building. So right away I'm stating that where I am, my brain is thinking about these details. I start writing them down. Simply stated, we just navigate into the apartment building, trigger an IGC once we're in there. We navigate through the apartment building and out the far window. Now you can see there's more steps in here than the actual timeline shows. You don't necessarily have to have every one of these match the timeline. Some of these smaller increments are smaller breakouts of what's going on here. So navigating across the alley is probably good enough to state what's happening here. The next major moment is once you get to the loading dock, then you have to fight CH.U.Ds. So this section here can include navigating through the apartment. You use the trucks and the boxes to avoid the CH.U.Ds in the alley. You find your way to the far side of the alley to the loading docks. So note, we're going to introduce the kick mechanic. Kick CH.U.Ds in the face to get across the boxes. Then we get the cataclysmic moment. So 4 and 5, well actually, we do have this here. This is 4 and this is 5. So it is pretty accurate. Then the cataclysmic event. So just because you have more detailed breakout in your walkthrough doesn't mean you have to have every detail in the timeline. The timeline is a quick overview of start, finish, the big chunks of gameplay and the major things that happen in the level. Make sure this is in sequence though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. if there's options here, if this navigation section, say, is has multiple things that can happen in here, we'll then put A, B, C, D, E, F, G in here. Or you can just put bullet points stating that you can encounter all these moments, as in opening a box, finding a weapon, finding treasure in the corner, opening a diary and reading the diary, talking to the people, the family, all these things. You can encounter all this, but it's not necessary to do them all. It's just optional, let you explore. So you can add more details here, which we'll show in the more polished version. So this is essentially your rough walkthrough. And the key points of this is filling in all these elements. So if you don't have a non-playable character, an NPC, don't leave it blank. There's no blanks in any of these, no blanks in the asset list. You do something like this, none. Or you can put NA, which stands for not applicable. Do not leave it blank. If you leave it blank, undo, 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 undo. If you leave it blank, people wonder on your team, oh, did he forget to put this in here? If you put none, they know you thought it through, and there's none. So don't waste people's time. Make sure you fill in all of them in detail, spell them correctly. Yes, grammar is important. Being clean, organized is important. So that's basically a rough walkthrough. And the next step would be a more polished walkthrough, which I'll go over in another video, because we start getting into specific things like gameplay pockets, breaking out exactly what you want to do as you navigate through the apartment. So we're going to go over that in the next video. So that is your rough walkthrough. And that's it for today. Thank you. Goodbye.